Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Good morning, everybody. I hope you are feeling great today. And if you're not, you are not alone. I woke up after a really tough night's sleep, lost several hours last night. And it's really tough to start the day with the same energy that you really want to have and the positivity and the optimism. There's just going to be days that it doesn't feel as natural. And maybe for you today, that's more days than not. Just understand that you are not alone. Many of us, all of us understand and get that. And so I am here to share with you today just some reality, some realness, some real talk around what happiness actually looks like. Happiness is not about the huge moments in life. It's not about those huge milestones that people tend to think it's caught up in, like having the house or landing the partner or getting the promotion or having kiddos in this period of time, or, it's not about the big stuff. And so that's such a common misconception that when we talk about happiness and how to do happiness, how to feel happy, people think that it's something so far outside the realm of possibility that they don't even think to incorporate it into their journey and what they actually can create for their lives right now. And so part of my mission with these interview series of the How of Happiness, where I interview women in all walks of life, all stages, all ages, all different lifestyles, is to really just take the lid off of the reality behind happiness. And it doesn't look the way many people think it does. And I think it's a really important message to get out there so that you're not feeling like there's this toxic positivity of just pretend everything's fine and just focus on smiling all day and just thinking positive thoughts. That's not how happiness actually looks. And so I'm really excited to have my next guest today. So I'm going to, let's see if we can let's see. Hi, good
Oh,
morning.
good morning. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited.
I'm,
Fun.
you're what?
I'm excited. This is going to be fun.
It is going to be fun. It is fun. This is just a chance for us to chat a little bit and talk about happiness. And I was just sharing with everyone that there are days that it's just not easy. Like I, for example, was up from like 2:30 to 5 a.m. this morning. Our puppy must have gotten into something. And so she needed to go outside like several times in the night. And it's just, you're like so sleep. It's like back to newborn days. You're like, this isn't happening. Like, how did I do this to myself? Why am I getting up in the middle of the night and losing so much sleep? And then that becomes a domino, right? Because then you wake up and you're exhausted and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I can't wait for bed tonight. And,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't want this to ruin the day, right?
Yep.
So there are these days that you can wake up and feel energized and happy and like this is a great day. And there's days you're like, how on earth do I make this a great day?
Yep.
It's one of those days. But I'm really glad you're joining us, Laura. Tell us a bit about who you are and what you do. Introduce yourself to our audience, and let's dive into a fun conversation about how we do happy.
Hey, sounds good. My name is Laura Pettit. I am a wife and a mom of 3 kids. I homeschool and I run a wellness business. I love helping teach women how to prioritize themselves and put themselves first. So I think we go hand in hand with that. I focus more on filling your cup first with daily healthy habits that are sustainable, no quick fixes. And that's where I like to really help people.
Love it. That's awesome. It's such important work with such a major impact, and the world needs you. The world needs people, all people who are willing to serve and to believe in us when we can't even believe in ourselves, and have faith in us and our abilities when we don't even see it in ourselves. And so women prioritizing themselves has never been more needed, especially in the last year and a half of COVID. We have stepped into roles that we never imagined stepping into and took on more hats than we have been trained to take on.
Yep.
That actually leads us into a great first question. For you, this is your specialty and this is what your passion is about, really helping women give themselves permission to prioritize their needs,
Mm-hmm.
prioritize yourself. So one of the hardest things that I found, if I'm being honest, is how do we walk our talk? And how do we walk our talk in such a way that it's like truly our lifestyle? Day in and day out, we're in the same kind of struggles, but we're creating the same type of growth that we want to see in our clients or in the people that we serve and work with. How do you walk that talk? How do you prioritize yourself?
Well, what I found over many years of doing this is that if I don't prioritize myself first, then I have way less to give to everybody else. And whether that's my family or my clients, I don't show up as my best self. And so if you're starting from a place where you are giving to everybody else and you just feel drained all the time, it's because you're not giving to yourself first. You don't have the bandwidth and the energy. And so when you start to do that, it will feel maybe a little bit difficult at first, or a lot of women, I think, experience guilt around this, where they feel guilty prioritizing their needs first, especially if you're a mother.
Yes.
You feel, I need to take care of my kid and my spouse and everything in my home before I can take care of myself. But that thing a little bit, I'm going to say backwards, even though it's so common.
Is like the kind of this universal language for most women is that it is this backwards way of the world and then me if there's anything left. So when it comes to prioritizing you and your needs, filling your cup, what does that actually look like? So if we were just to get into the nitty gritty of like how Laura prioritizes herself, what does that mean to you? And what does it actually look like if our listeners were curious about, well, what does that mean? Because it means this to me, or I've heard someone else say it looks like this to them. I'm curious about your way. How do you do you?
Okay. So I have to start with a morning routine. And if I don't, then I feel like my day isn't set up as well. So for me, and this is harder if you have like a young child that doesn't sleep well or a puppy that's up all night, right? It's more difficult to get up in the morning. And I think all women with newborns and young kids get a total pass with getting up early. But for me, I get up early. I take a few minutes to read, to study, to pray, and to work out.
What time
energizes me?
What time's early for you?
Early for me is 6:30.
6:30 you get up, and then you're reading. So what are you reading? What are you studying? Are you reading fiction, nonfiction? Are we studying for just personal growth, self-growth, professional growth? What do you prioritize first thing?
Yeah, good question. I prioritize personal and self-growth first. And I am like a self-help book junkie. I have not read a novel since high school. And that's just me. I know women that love to read novels, and that is fantastic. But for me, I love to be learning more ways, new ways, up-leveling my skills. So I'll just read like a chapter, or if the chapter's long, I'll read 20 minutes, 15. And I think even spending 5 to 10 minutes in the morning. So if you feel like, okay, well, this already sounds like a nightmare for me trying to get up early, if you can even just take 5 minutes before you go and interact with anybody else in your home, or before you pick up your phone, then that will help set you up for a better day. Which brings me to another thing. I don't look at my phone right away. I try to keep it away, because that is already putting more stuff into my mind. It's so easy to roll over, grab your phone, and start scrolling. And that will start your day off in a peaceful way.
Yeah.
I really am protective of my peace and how I feel. And I kind of set little boundaries like that for myself, where I wait until after breakfast with my kids to check business things or to check social media.
Right. So you give yourself, at least it sounds like, at least an hour of the morning where you're on your phone. It's great.
Yeah.
I think is such an important message and reminder. Jane says women need to have a love affair with themselves, then all is possible. So true. I love that. And I think for so many of us, we were never taught to. We were taught to try to be our best and do all the things, but love ourselves was never something that was taught to many women. It wasn't taught. We were supposed to love others and give to others and serve others, but to love ourselves, we were actually taught. If we think about growing up in elementary or middle school, high school, we were taught to criticize ourselves, critique ourselves, judge ourselves, compare ourselves. So love is like foreign concept for so many of us. I love that. I love that idea though, Jane. It's a beautiful image and something that would be wonderful for more of us to integrate. Protecting the peace is something, it's almost like, when you imagine it, it's something that sounds so lovely in theory and for so many seems impossible. Like, what are you talking about? How do I protect my peace? I can't go through my day with this bubble that people know, like, don't bother me, don't hate on me, don't judge me, there's not this way that we can create, the moat around our castle and a drawbridge that people just, oh, it's just not time, you can't get to me. A lot of the time of the day we don't have that ability, but what the morning we do. And that's something that, morning routines are like all the rage. Everyone's talking about morning routine. If you don't have a morning routine, you're doing it wrong, is what people are like, it's such an intense message everyone's hammering home. But I think for those women that don't have it, they're like, okay, like, I guess I'm going to be miserable because I don't have this morning routine. But really, reminder that the largest majority of the day, you don't actually have a barrier or a moat around you. You're interacting it with your community, with your children, with your partner, with your boss, with your coworkers, and your doors are not locked, and there's people that can come in and out and interact with you all day long. The only times that we actually do have available to us to truly protect peace in terms of the world out is our morning and our evening, how we start a day and how we close a day. And it's usually going to be before work begins, before our kiddos get up, and it's going to be after they go to bed and after the workday ends. But we have that time, and the reason that there's such an emphasis on morning and evening routines and rituals is because we realize that's really all we have.
Yeah.
Under that time, then we will feel like we're living on the defense instead of offense. We will feel more depleted. We will feel like we can never fill our cup because we're trying to almost have this unrealistic expectation of what's possible for us when the to support it. Your boss isn't going to protect your peace for you, right?
No, they're not. And I think this comes down to, you really need to work to be intentional. And that's a choice that we have to learn how to make. Because oftentimes for a lot of women, it doesn't come naturally to choose themselves first, to be intentional. When you're up really late, you don't want to get up early. Time on yourself, right? You want to sleep in. And sometimes that's okay too. There's this thing that, I don't know if you've heard this term floating around, called revenge procrastination bedtime, where you stay up so late because you had no time for yourself during the day.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes this cycle where you're staying up late. And what do we do when we stay up late? We typically are binging social media, watching Netflix, and none of those things are bad. But what we're consuming right before we go to bed, and then not getting a good night's sleep, and then trying to wake up with a fresh start, or waking up so tired because we stayed up so late, that doesn't help us. So I'm not saying you can't do those things, but you have to start to think, is this serving me? Is this habit serving me? Is this helping me to feel better? Is this helping me to put myself in a good position where I feel like I can have a good day because of how I've set my day up? Does that make sense?
It does. Our mornings don't begin in our mornings. Our mornings begin the night before. We don't protect our bedtimes, and we do rebel, and we go and watch all the things, and we're like, yeah, I'm doing it my way. No one can tell me to go to bed early, like we're teenagers again.
Right.
That's good until you find yourself on repeat every morning being like, oh, I snoozed again. I want to stop snoozing. Why did I do that? This is so frustrating. I don't want to start my day this way. Is being intentional is a really important part of your own personal journey towards and through happiness, creating happiness in your life. What is something, Laura, that you would say you wish you were more intentional about, but you haven't yet mastered it, or you want to be more intentional about, but you can't quite like get over that initial hump of commitment or discipline or consistency with?
Okay. Um, this is a big one and something that I've worked on for a long time, and I think a lot of women can identify with. We have so much to do and so much that we want to do. It can be really hard to be fully present where you're at. That is probably the thing that I struggle with the very most, is being fully present when I'm with my kids and I'm not thinking about, oh, I need to do the laundry and I'm making this for dinner and I need to go to the store and I need to get this done for work and I need to check in with this client. Like, it's really difficult for me to always stay present. I'm at, instead of thinking of everything else. And I think a lot of people struggle with that too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, most women, I think, do struggle with that. There's such a pull into the future of trying to anticipate fires or put out fires, and it robs us of just being able to be in a moment. I noticed even yesterday, my daughter was asking me to take a peek at something. She said something like, Mommy, I want you to see something. And I was thinking, and my brain literally spelled it out, like, hope it's worth switching my attention for. Like, okay, hope it's a good one.
Right?
Of course, I was thinking, it's hard for us to switch gears. It's hard for us to be in this moment and then equally present in that moment and equally present in that moment and be switching gears throughout our day. And it's tough for us to understand, like, how to do that in a way that's going to support our kiddos or support our clients. Like, there's so many thoughts that run through our minds at any given moment. And especially with the kids, I think it's a big one as for moms is the kids are constantly, like I said the other day, what was it? What did I do? Oh, I closed the door. And it was as if I attached a magnet to the door for my kids to be drawn to the door. If I had left the door open, maybe there wouldn't have been a peep, but because I closed the door to try to create a little bit of a moat to protect my time to finish something that I was invested in, it created the opposite effect. And the kids are coming in needing me, wanting whatever. And you're just thinking, it's so hard. It's hard to be present. So it's not like we're not these women who don't care about the kids or don't care about the client or don't care about the dinner or there's so many things that we do care about that it makes it so difficult for us to go through the flow of giving each experience its own undivided attention. And we only have so much attention in a moment. So I wonder if you've created any boundaries around time that have helped with that. So for what I mean by that is, one of the things that I do is, and continue to work on, because there's days as your phone has everything on it, you can, like if I'm at the bus stop, which is the end of my work day, I will transition to mom time and I get up, and while I'm waiting, I'll try to catch up on loose ends, anything I haven't responded to or dealt with. So that I can try to kind of cross a couple things off the list. And then when the girls get off the bus, I'm like, okay, I'm mom. But if I pick up my phone during that time after the bus to check the recipe for dinner or to whatever it is, check, when the book fair is for school, all of a sudden you're bombarded with the media or the notifications and so some of the things that I've worked on doing, and I'm wondering if you've found any hacks that work for you with presence, is turning off notifications. And it's been really helpful to even put my phone in a different room for a couple of hours that I don't even know. Like, I'll leave it on the other side of the house and think, okay, it's so far over there. Nothing that I am thinking right now warrants me going over there and grabbing my phone and coming back. So it's easier to be present because there's fewer opportunities to be yanked out of it, right? Yeah. And then period of time that I go back on and make sure I just kind of check in towards the end of the day. Does anyone need me? My clients are in all different time zones, and so it's like I want to make sure that I can respond in a reasonable amount of time. But that helps me. Putting a phone away, or even saying like, okay, this hour is meant for this, or these 10 minutes are meant for undivided attention with one of my daughters, or this time is meant for just cooking. I'm not cooking and listening to a podcast or cooking and helping with homework. This is what's happening in this moment. So have you created any hacks for yourself that you're trying to integrate that allow you to feel a little bit more boundaried and present?
Yeah, I love what you say about the phone thing. And I have also done something similar. My family laughs that they can never get a hold of me because I keep my phone on silent.
Me too.
I don't even want to hear it ring if I'm in the middle of doing something else, and I often leave it in the other room too. So if in so I homeschool my kids. So when we're doing school, my phone is away. Like I have to focus on them. That is like our intentional time. We're getting school done. And when I switch into work time, I often still put it on do not disturb. So like between school, I do school in the morning, I do work in the afternoon. Between that, I'll check my phone to make sure there's nothing urgent that I've missed, right? And my family knows that if it's urgent, they call my husband.
Perfect.
Because he has different boundaries with his phone. So they'll call him. I like leaving my phone in a different room. I like turning it off if I want like a really serious block of time where I need to be so focused. And I found that I can spend way less time accomplishing something if I have no distractions.
Mm-hmm.
I have kids, so of course I always have a distraction, right? Like you said. So with my kids are a little bit older, and this was a bit more challenging when they were younger, but I would say, I'm going to set the timer. I'm going to set the timer for 20 minutes or 30 minutes. You're going to sit here and here's your toys or here's your book. And I would save something that they didn't get to play with all the time. Mm-hmm. So it was, right? It wasn't the same old toys that they always got. So it was exciting. I'd set my timer and I'd be really intentional with trying to get that done. Did it all work perfectly? Of course not. But it worked well enough. Mm-hmm. Even when you have little kids, find something that works well enough.
Yeah.
And try that.
Yeah, well enough. I think that's a really great, phrasing for not getting too all or nothing about it. For our perfectionists out there, have a hard time getting started because it's not quite right or you can't quite imagine it working perfectly, and so you don't even bother, and then you just end up feeling again like all day every day is on the offense, I'm on the defense, and you're constantly just trying to put out those fires and trying to catch your breath and trying to come up for air, when if we could just think about, well, what's good enough for today, what's good enough for the moment, or what's good enough for just this one breath or this 1 hour of my time, that can make a huge difference, and it can allow you to actually get into action instead of feeling paralyzed by overthinking something. Laura, before we end for today, tell us a little bit about a hard day. So those days that, are not starting off smoothly or do not feel like they have a nice flow to them, or they don't go as planned or as anticipated. And you find that your mood's dropping. You find that you're in a funky mood, or you're feeling grumpy or irritable, or you're just unhappy today. Mm-hmm. For you, what do you do with that? How do you navigate that? It happens to all of us, but a hard day.
So yes, that definitely happens. Hard days happen, and nobody is immune to that, right? There's always going to be a hard day. Some things that I do when I have a hard day is I take a step back and for me, have to think about what really matters, right? What really matters to me, and if there's nothing that I absolutely have to get done that day other than give my kids a hug and let them know they're loved and grab a pizza for dinner, then I'm okay with that. I try to be okay with that. And this comes back to where you have to try to be intentional. Some tools that I use, I love essential oils. And they help me change my mood really quickly. So when you smell an essential oil, it goes to the limbic system in your brain and it helps you to calm down. And that is probably my secret weapon, that if I'm having a really bad, crappy day, I'll grab an essential oil and I'll smell it and I'll take a few minutes to myself. And that helps me relax out of what you may call like a frenzied or fight or flight kind of state. Now that doesn't solve everything, but it helps take the edge off so I can regroup and say, okay, my day isn't going well. What can I do to either be okay with it or to try to help turn it around a bit? Mm-hmm. Days you're just okay with it. By the end of the day, you take a bath and you go to bed and you're like, we're starting over again tomorrow. I think learning to be okay with that, which doesn't come easy. I am probably a self-proclaimed recovering perfectionist. I like things to be perfect. I grew up that way. And I've worked really hard to scale it back and be okay with what you may call B minus work. Be like, got it done. Done is better than perfect.
Mm-hmm. It's actually hearing you say B minus because that I like had a, I had like a visceral reaction to that.
It's hard.
Minus there. Does the minus have to be there? I'm not sure the minus has to be there. Stick with a B. I think that's great. Yes, and I know that you're a dancer, and I've actually thought about this as well. Imagining you as a dancer also makes me think about the perfectionism and perfection. And I was thinking that I was wondering actually, would you identify as a perfectionist? And when you say recovering, you know, so much is about the unlearning of the way that we were conditioned for so long as a dancer as well.
Yeah.
Those days of just, it was all or nothing. It was perfection was the only acceptable way. And to unlearn that and to live more fluidly and flexibly is very uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
And uncomfortable at best and feels reckless and risky sometimes.
Yep.
I love so much that you're sharing with us so honestly, candidly about just some days are just going to be hard. And I'm not going to have this, you know, perfect sequence of tools that I use to like boost my mood and I feel great by the end of the day and I've really solved it all and mastered it. That's not the truth. The truth is we just have crappy days sometimes. And sometimes the best we can do is to just get through the day and make it, tell ourselves, like you said, tomorrow's a new day. We get to start again. And I said that to myself so much when I had my first daughter because I had her in the winter. It was January. And it was my first child and it was super isolating. And every day, and it was getting dark so early, and every day I'd be thinking, oh my gosh, like the night's coming, the night's coming. There'd be this anticipation about the night closing in on me. And that if I didn't get enough sleep during the day when the baby slept, that the night was going to be so rough. It's going to be so hard. I'm going to be up so much and so exhausted, and the night's coming. And then I would just tell myself before I'd go to bed, you know, hoping we get like an extra hour that night of her sleeping through or being rested before I need to wake up again. I remember saying to myself, whatever happens tonight, tomorrow's a new day. Whatever night, tomorrow's a new day. And so it just helped me feel less pressure about, please tell me this night's going to be easier than last time. Please tell me I'm not going to feel this horrible in the morning. And I would just remind myself that anything is possible tomorrow. Today may have been tough, or tonight may even be tough. And I don't know because I haven't lived it yet. But tomorrow's a new day, and I always have a chance for a new sunrise. There's always a new chance for the start of a fresh day that hasn't been touched by any shitty things yet. I love that reminder, and I think it's a great way for us to close today. It's just no matter what you're going through on this journey of happiness, it most certainly does not look like just focus on positive thoughts and just solve all the problems in your day and just have your arsenal of the perfect sequence of tools you're going to use that are, you know, guaranteed to cultivate joy in your day. The reality is there are going to be some hard days. There's going to be many hard days. And if you give yourself permission to kind of roll with it sometimes and to not put extra drama and extra noise and extra stress and extra stories around what that should or shouldn't look like, it allows you to survive it as easily as possible and allows you to get a little closer to a new fresh day.
Yeah. Nope. Totally agree with that.
I love it. Thank you so much, Laura, for joining me today. I'm so glad to have you here and just to share, you know, candidly about what this looks like. I think it's a message that so many women don't hear because we look at social media as these perfect images or these perfect hacks, these perfect tips, and we don't really get to talk about the hard days and the other side, and that even that is happiness. Like that is part of happiness. That is part of this journey, and all of it matters. So I appreciate you taking your protected time to spend with me today, and hope we can do this again in the future.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful to talk with you.
You're welcome. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.
Hey, you too. Bye.
Bye.